Have you ever felt that strange tightening in your chest when you're about to speak in front of others? Maybe it's a presentation at work, a conversation with someone important, or even just introducing yourself to a group of strangers. Suddenly your throat feels dry, your hands begin to shake, and your mind, which a second ago was full of clear thoughts, goes completely blank. You know exactly what you want to say, but the words hide somewhere deep, as if locked behind a door you can't quite open. This is one of the most universal human experiences, the fear of being judged while speaking. It's not just stage fright, it's the fear of being seen. And here's the secret. Almost everyone feels it. Even the people you think are naturally confident have battled with this invisible enemy. Today, I want to show you a method so simple and so disarmingly effective that it feels almost strange it works at all. I call it the empty chair rule. And once you understand it, you'll realize you've had the power to break free from this fear all along. Let's begin with a simple truth from psychology. Your brain can't tell the difference between imagination and reality as clearly as you think. That's why your heart races when you watch a horror movie, even though you know you're sitting safely at home. The same thing happens when you speak in front of people. Your brain exaggerates the threat, makes you believe everyone is scrutinizing you, when in reality most of them are barely paying attention. So, how do you trick the brain into calming down? How do you convince your nervous system that this isn't a life or death situation? That's where the empty chair rule comes in. It's a deceptively simple exercise, but its impact can be life-changing. Imagine you're about to give a speech. Instead of staring into the sea of eyes that instantly activates your fear circuits, you choose one chair in the room. It could be in the front row, the back, or even off to the side. That chair becomes your anchor. You don't speak to the audience as a faceless crowd. You speak to that chair as if it were an old friend who is here just to listen. You're not performing anymore. You're having a conversation. This tiny shift changes everything because the brain no longer frames the situation as all of them against me. It becomes one-to-one communication, something you already know how to do and something you do every single day. The empty chair rule has 3 simple steps and each one builds on the other. Step 1. Focus your attention. Before you start speaking, pick your chair. Give it meaning. Imagine it's holding the presence of someone supportive, a mentor, a friend, even the most understanding version of yourself. Step 2. Shrink the audience. Instead of 1,000 eyes, there is just one presence, one listener, one safe point of focus. Your voice naturally steadies, your breath evens out, and your brain stops scanning the crowd for threat signals. Step 3. Let connection replace performance. You're no longer trying to impress or prove anything. You're simply sharing your story with one listener. And here's the paradox. When you do that, the rest of the audience leans in. They feel the authenticity. They sense the calm confidence in your tone. By speaking to one, you connect with all. Why does this work? Neuroscience gives us the answer. When you perceive yourself as the center of judgment, your amygdala, the brain's threat detector, floods your system with adrenaline. That's the shaking, the sweating, the racing heart. But when you narrow the context, when you tell your brain, I am not performing for a crowd, I am talking to a person, your prefrontal cortex takes back control. It reframes the entire situation. The imagined threat shrinks, and suddenly you can think clearly again. You've probably noticed that in everyday conversations you don't freeze the way you do on stage. That's because your brain doesn't perceive one-on-one as threatening. The empty chair rule hacks this exact mechanism. It makes your brain believe you're simply in a safe, familiar dialogue. Now, let me take you deeper, because this method is more than just a trick. It's a reprogramming tool. Every time you practice it, you create a new association in your nervous system. Speaking equals safety. Over time, this becomes automatic. Your body stops bracing for impact every time you stand up to speak. Instead, it remembers the countless moments you've calmly spoken to your imaginary chair, and it brings that calmness forward without effort. This is not about pretending the audience isn't there. They're still there, and they still hear you. But you're no longer paralyzed by their presence because your focus is anchored. And a focused mind cannot panic. Panic thrives in vagueness. Focus kills it instantly. Let me share a scenario so you can picture it clearly. Imagine you're at a team meeting and it's your turn to present. Normally your heart would pound as all those eyes turn to you. But this time, before the meeting starts, you've already chosen your empty chair, the one in the second row by the window. When your name is called, you take a breath, glance at that chair and remind yourself, I'm just speaking to that seat. As you begin, your words flow easier because your nervous system isn't overwhelmed. Halfway through, you notice something strange. The rest of the room is nodding, paying attention, drawn in. You're calm, and they feel it. That one imaginary connection has turned your fear into power. But let's not stop there. There is an advanced version of the empty chair rule that makes it even stronger. Instead of just imagining a neutral listener, fill that chair with someone who always supports you. Maybe a close friend, a parent, or even your future self, the version of you who has already conquered fear. The brain loves symbols. When you associate the chair with unconditional acceptance, it becomes a psychological shield. Every glance toward it reinforces, I am safe, I am supported, I am not being judged. And this security radiates through your entire presence. You stand taller, your voice deepens, your gestures flow naturally. It feels less like giving a speech and more like telling a story to someone who truly cares. Here's something fascinating. Research in psychology shows that people who frame social situations as conversations instead of performances consistently report lower anxiety and higher effectiveness. When you use the empty chair rule, you are literally rewiring the frame. You're transforming audience equals sign threat into audience equals sign connection. That single shift unlocks abilities you didn't even know you had. And remember, communication isn't about perfection. The people listening don't want a flawless robot. They want authenticity. They want to feel you mean what you say. When you speak to your empty chair, you naturally strip away the mask, and that's exactly what makes you magnetic. Now think about this. How many opportunities in your life have you lost because of this fear? How many times have you stayed silent even though you had something valuable to share? How many doors stayed closed because your voice didn't leave your throat? The empty chair rule is more than just a confidence hack. It is a key to unlocking those lost opportunities. It gives you back the voice that fear has been stealing. And once you've practiced it a few times, you'll find the fear dissolves faster and faster, until one day you realize you're speaking with the same ease you feel when talking to a close friend. I want you to notice one important thing. This method doesn't fight fear directly. It doesn't tell you to suppress your nerves or pretend you're not scared. Suppression never works. It only makes the fear stronger. Instead, it sidesteps the fear entirely. It gives your mind a new focus, one that leaves no room for panic to grow. This is why it feels effortless. It's not about being brave, it's about being smart. And when you're smart with your psychology, you don't need to force confidence. Confidence becomes the natural byproduct of your focus. There is another layer to this method that makes it even more powerful, and it has to do with how human beings are wired to mirror emotions. When you stand in front of a group and you radiate tension, the audience feels it too. They pick up on your nervous energy, not because they want to judge you, but because our brains are designed to mirror the emotional states we see. That's why a nervous speaker creates a nervous room, and a calm speaker creates a calm room. The empty chair rule flips this dynamic. By grounding yourself in the connection with one supportive presence, you radiate steadiness and warmth, and suddenly the audience begins to mirror you. Instead of being your enemy, they unconsciously become your ally. It's not magic, it's neuroscience working in your favor. Let's break this down into a framework you can carry with you everywhere. Think of it as a three-pillar system. The first pillar is anchor. Before every conversation or speech, anchor yourself by choosing your chair. This is not random. You give it symbolic meaning. It becomes the psychological safe point that your attention can return to whenever anxiety rises. The second pillar is focus. You direct your energy to that one spot, narrowing the overwhelming field of eyes into a single channel. By doing so, you are telling your brain, this is not danger, this is dialogue. The third pillar is transfer. Once your nervous system has calmed, your authenticity naturally transfers to the entire room. The audience feels it, and suddenly what used to be fear transforms into connection. Anchor, focus, transfer. That's the empty chair rule in its purest form, and it's all you need to remember. Now, I want you to imagine applying this not just on a stage, but in everyday life. You walk into a job interview, your heart pounding. Instead of drowning in self-consciousness, you quietly choose your anchor point, perhaps the chair opposite you or even the corner of the room. As you begin to speak, your focus stays steady, your nervous system calms, and the interviewer sees confidence. Or maybe you're at a family gathering, about to make a toast. Normally, you'd stumble or rush through it. But now, with the empty chair rule, you pick your focus point and deliver the words with surprising calmness. The fear doesn't disappear completely, but it loses its grip. You are no longer controlled by it. That one technique begins to reshape the story you tell yourself about who you are. Here's the deeper truth behind all of this. Fear of speaking is rarely about the words themselves. It's about identity. It's about the story we carry that says, "I'm not the kind of person who can stand in front of others." Every time you practice the empty chair rule, you are rewriting that story. You are teaching your brain, "I can stand here, I can be seen, I can be heard, and nothing bad happens." Over time, the identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as the nervous one who avoids speaking, and you start seeing yourself as the person who can connect with others. That's why this method feels so liberating. It's not just about surviving a presentation, it's about reclaiming your voice in life. Now, let's make this practical. The next time you know you'll face a situation that triggers your anxiety, do this. Arrive a little early, scan the room, and deliberately choose your empty chair. Don't wait until the panic hits. Prepare your anchor in advance. Then, before speaking, take one slow breath. Look at that chair and remind yourself, "I am only talking to you." That's it. No complicated breathing drills, no memorizing long scripts, no trying to pretend you're fearless. Just one focus point. As you speak, glance at it when you feel tension rising and let the calm return. Afterward, notice how much smoother it went. That awareness alone reinforces the new pattern in your brain, and with each repetition, the fear loses its power. You might be wondering, will people notice that I'm looking at a chair? The answer is yes, but not in the way you think. They won't think, "Why are they staring at that spot?" Instead, they'll interpret your gaze as composure, as steadiness, as a centered presence. To them, you'll look more confident, not less. And the beauty is that while they perceive confidence on the outside, you're also building it on the inside. This is what makes the technique so elegantly effective. It creates a loop. Your calm gaze calms your body, your calm body projects confidence, and the audience mirrors that confidence back to you. I want to leave you with a story. A student once told me that she couldn't speak in class without trembling. The fear was so strong that even saying her name during introductions felt unbearable. I taught her the empty chair rule. The next time she had to speak, she chose a chair by the window and spoke only to that spot. For the first time, she made it through without her voice breaking. A few weeks later, she told me something powerful. "The chair became my friend. Every time I speak, it's there with me. That is the essence of this method. You are never alone. You always have a friend in the room, even if it's just an empty chair." So here's my challenge to you. In the next few days, you will almost certainly face a situation where you need to speak up. Maybe at work, maybe at home, maybe in front of strangers. Instead of letting fear decide for you, use the empty chair rule. Anchor yourself, focus your attention, and let the connection transfer. Notice how your body responds. Notice how people respond to you. And then remember, this power was always inside you. All it needed was a way to be unlocked. The empty chair rule is not about being fearless. It's about being free. Free to share your ideas, free to let your voice be heard, free to connect without the weight of judgment crushing you. You don't need to fight your fear, you just need to outsmart it. And now you have the tool to do exactly that. So the next time you walk into a room and that familiar anxiety begins to rise, don't run from it, don't silence yourself. Simply find your chair, take your breath, and begin. Because the world doesn't need a perfect speaker, it needs your voice, your story, your presence. And that begins the moment you claim your seat, not on the stage, but in your own mind.